In the 1980s, Formula One entered a period unlike anything before or after, an era defined by raw power, fearless innovation, and a constant battle between human limits and technological ambition. The rules were loose, the risks were high, and engineers were free to dream without restraint. It was the age of the turbos, when the pursuit of speed overshadowed everything else. In this chaotic arms race, one engine emerged that didn't just dominate the competition, it changed the sport forever. It came from Germany, financed by a visionary entrepreneur, and found its home in a British masterpiece. It was the Porsche TAG Turbo, the engine that forced Formula One to rewrite its own rules. The story begins in 1983. McLaren, once a powerhouse in the 1970s, had fallen behind. The British team still had legendary drivers and clever engineers, but it lacked one crucial ingredient: power. While rivals like Renault and Ferrari were already mastering turbocharging, McLaren was stuck with the aging Ford Cosworth DFV, a brilliant engine in its time, but hopelessly outgunned in the new turbo era. Ron Dennis, McLaren's young and relentless team principal, refused to accept mediocrity. He believed that to win again, McLaren needed not just a good engine, but a revolutionary one. Enter Mansour Onomoja, the charismatic Saudi-French businessman behind TAG, Techniques d'Avant-Garde. Onomoja was more than a sponsor. He was a visionary investor who believed in blending art, technology, and performance. When Dennis approached him with the idea of funding an exclusive turbo engine for McLaren, Onomoja didn't hesitate. He wanted something different, not just a rebadged motor from another manufacturer, but a bespoke power unit engineered for dominance. And there was only one company capable of delivering that: Porsche. Porsche had been away from Formula One since the early 1960s, when its works team briefly competed with limited success, but its name had since become synonymous with endurance, precision, and mechanical perfection. In the 1970s, Porsche's 917 and 936 dominated Le Mans. They built engines that could run at full throttle for 24 hours, a discipline far tougher than F1. When TAG came knocking, Porsche saw an opportunity to bring its expertise into the most glamorous motorsport arena on Earth. At the heart of the project was Hans Mezger, one of Porsche's greatest engineers. Mezger was calm, methodical, and obsessed with perfection. He had designed the legendary air-cooled flat-six engines that powered the 911 in Porsche's prototypes at Le Mans. But this time he faced an entirely new challenge: building a Formula One engine that was light, small, efficient, and monstrously powerful. The result was the TAGP-01, a 1.5-liter V6 twin-turbocharged engine with Bosch electronic fuel injection. It was compact, weighing just 150 kilograms, yet capable of delivering over 800 horsepower during races and exceeding 1,000 horsepower in qualifying. Figures that still sound insane today, but Mezger's genius lay in how that power was delivered. Unlike rival turbos, which were violent and unpredictable, the TAGP-01 provided smooth linear acceleration. Its turbochargers, precision-balanced and tightly controlled by electronics, reduced the dreaded turbo lag that made other cars so difficult to handle. Another crucial innovation was fuel efficiency. Under FIA rules, turbo engines were restricted by fuel capacity, forcing teams to balance power with consumption. While others burned through their tanks too quickly, the Porsche unit was astonishingly efficient. This allowed McLaren drivers to push harder and longer, especially in the latter stages of races when rivals had to back off. The debut came in 1984 inside the McLaren MP4/2, a chassis designed by John Barnard. It was one of the first F1 cars built entirely from carbon fiber, light, strong, and perfectly suited to the TAG turbo's characteristics. Together, they formed a lethal combination. Niki Lauda, the cerebral veteran, and Alain Prost, the rising star known for his precision, made up the driver lineup. From the very first races, it was clear that McLaren had changed the game. That year, the team won 12 out of 16 races, an unprecedented level of dominance. The car was faster, more reliable, and more predictable than anything else on the grid. The engine's smooth power delivery allowed Lauda and Prost to drive closer to the limit without fear of sudden turbo surges. Even when boost pressure was turned down for fuel management, the T01 remained strong and stable. Lauda won the championship by just half a point over Prost, marking McLaren's return to glory. In 1985, McLaren continued its dominance. The car evolved into the MP4/2B, and Prost finally clinched his first world title. The following year, with the MP4/2C, he won again. Over 3 seasons, the TAG turbo engine powered McLaren to 25 Grand Prix victories, 2 drivers' championships, and 3 constructors' titles. It became a symbol of technical superiority and reliability, the very traits that define Porsche's engineering philosophy. But the TAGP01 success also revealed something deeper about Formula One's identity. The turbo era had unleashed so much power that the cars were becoming almost impossible to drive. In qualifying, engines were tuned beyond reason, reaching 1,200 or even 1,300 horsepower. Boost pressures climbed dangerously high, and fuel mixtures were so volatile that some mechanics refused to stand near the cars in the pits. Drivers described them as missiles with wheels. During this time, the skill required to tame these beasts reached mythical levels. Watching Prost or Lauda feather the throttle of a McLaren TAG turbo out of a corner was like watching a fighter pilot balancing on a knife's edge. The FIA, however, was growing nervous. The costs were astronomical, the speeds terrifying, and reliability unpredictable. Turbocharging had turned Formula One into a technological war zone, with factories spending millions on development for marginal gains. After several incidents and rising safety concerns, the governing body decided to intervene. By 1987, new rules limited turbo boost to 4.0 bar, reducing power and fuel tank size. In 1988, the limit dropped again to 2.5 bar, effectively neutering the once explosive engines. And finally, in 1989, turbos were banned altogether, replaced by larger, naturally aspirated engines. It was the end of an era, and the Porsche TAG Turbo was one of the main reasons why. Its success demonstrated both the brilliance and the danger of unrestrained engineering. Even after its retirement, the TAGP01 left an indelible mark. It proved that efficiency could win championships, that precision could conquer brute strength. It also showed the value of collaboration. The partnership between McLaren, Porsche, and TAG represented a perfect blend of engineering cultures, German discipline, British design philosophy, and visionary funding. Together, they built something that transcended motorsport. In retrospect, the TAG Turbo wasn't just a racing engine. It was a technological statement, a declaration that innovation could and should push boundaries, but that every revolution has consequences. The FIA's later emphasis on hybrid systems, fuel efficiency, and energy recovery all trace their philosophical roots back to that era, when engineers first learned that raw power alone wasn't sustainable. Today, decades later, the legend of the Porsche TAG Turbo continues to resonate. In the age of hybrid engines and data-driven performance, its story reminds us of a time when Formula One was more dangerous, more experimental, and more human. Porsche's rumored return to F1 reignites memories of that golden partnership with McLaren, a time when two engineering worlds collided and redefined what a race car could be. The Porsche engine that forced Formula One to rewrite the rules isn't just a catchy headline, it's the literal truth. That small, roaring 1.5-liter V6 didn't just win races, it forced an entire sport to evolve. It stands as a symbol of what happens when technology outpaces regulation and when brilliance meets necessity. The sound of that V6 turbo may have faded from the circuits long ago, but its legacy is eternal. Every time a Formula One car accelerates out of a corner, harnessing complex electronics to control massive power, it echoes the spirit of Weissach's masterpiece. The Porsche TAG Turbo wasn't only the engine that powered McLaren to glory, it was the engine that taught Formula One to dream bigger, think smarter, and, ultimately, to rewrite its own rules.